Welcome to Inclusive Education Illuminated, a webinar for Nebraska families. This webinar was brought to you in a partnership by two organizations, PTI Nebraska and SPED Strategies. PTI Nebraska has been the Parent and Training Information Center since 2000. PTIs are sometimes known as parent centers. There is at least one parent center in each state and U.S. territory, and Nebraska has only one PTI, and we operate statewide. The goal of the PTI is to empower families to feel confident in navigating their child's special education process. PTI Nebraska helps parents understand their rights and responsibilities regarding early intervention, special education, and transition services, and helps parents gain the knowledge and tools they need to participate effectively in their children's education. We help support parents throughout their child's education journey, serving families who have babies, toddlers, school-age children, and young adults to age 26. Together, we help parents build partnerships with school professionals to improve educational outcomes for their children with disabilities. SPED Strategies works with partners like PTI Nebraska who are committed to tackling long-standing challenges and are seeking innovative solutions that transform outcomes for students with disabilities. SPED Strategies is committed to working with PTI to support families in Nebraska and their partnerships with schools in order to foster inclusive educational environments. Families play a key role in inclusive schools, and without true family participation, a school community is not actually inclusive. A closer look at what we'll engage with today. As you can see during the webinar, we will define inclusive education and then explore strategies to support participation, collaboration, and advocacy as families in fostering inclusive education environments in Nebraska schools. So what is inclusive education, and what exactly do we mean, and why does it matter? Harvard School of Education spent time exploring the impact of inclusive education. Through this research process, they defined inclusion as involving a process of systematic reform, embodying changes and modifications in content, teaching methods, approaches, structures, and strategies in education to overcome barriers, with the vision serving to provide all students with an equitable and participatory learning experience. That's pretty wordy, so let's break that down a little farther. Harvard also developed a graphic that helps to underscore how far we have come as an education system in terms of support for students with disabilities. Take a look at the progression from exclusion on the left-hand side of the graphic, where students with disabilities are not supported in school environments, period, all the way through to inclusion, where they are taught and supported alongside their non-disabled peers. While kids are now in schools, they are often separated from their peers during instruction if they are struggling or if they have a disability. What we know is that this separation leads to negative outcomes for social emotional development and academic development. As we strive for inclusion, we want to ensure that general education and special education students are educated together in a space in which all students feel a sense of belonging and can be successful with grade level learning. Access to inclusive education is a priority for the state of Nebraska. Over the course of the last 2 years, the Nebraska Department of Education and SPED Strategies have partnered together to support local districts and schools with establishing the systems and structures to effectively provide an inclusive education to students with disabilities. To learn more about Nebraska's journey to inclusion and what the impact of this work has been thus far, we're going to watch a video. As we do, I'd love you to consider, what is the impact of inclusive education on all students in a school community?
Across the country, we have a problem. We have schools everywhere where teachers show up every day trying their hardest to change this narrative of what it means to be a student with a disability. but every one of them shows up into a structure and a schedule and a day that's not setting the teachers up for success or the students up for success. This is happening because our schools are operating under a model that is half a century old.
We had teachers and systems who believed that they were doing inclusion, but these students with IEPs are being pulled out and provided instruction in a different area, a different approach even, sometimes not even at grade level. And then we were wondering why we weren't seeing improved outcomes.
I'm in second grade. I'm 7 years old. I'm almost 8. I can't see, so I'm blind. My favorite subject is to read in Braille.
He's our most outgoing child, and he's always has a joke to tell.
We lived in a different state before we moved here, and Ruben was a year and a half at that time when we were realizing that the school district there was going to offer him to be in a special ed classroom only, away from everyone else, from his peers. And we didn't like the direction, and so we wanted to move to a state where he was included with his peers in the classroom, and that's why we moved here.
Our plan is to have inclusive education professional development, inclusive education strategies, inclusive education mindsets happening across our state. And SPED Strategies is the company, is the TA partner, is the catalyst for how we're going to get there.
SPED Strategies is on a mission to transform classrooms across the country. And we do this by ensuring that leaders, educators, and all the adults in schools have all the tools and resources that they need to make sure that students with disabilities are successful in school every day.
They were thought partners in the beginning that really helped us at the Department of Education think differently, and then it expanded into this amazing opportunity for our state.
They're working with local school districts to pilot at a small scale and really demonstrate to the rest of the state how this can be done, how you can really think about the leadership skills that your leaders need and build schedules that think about providing instruction to students in the general education classroom. How you then support teachers with understanding and having the right mindsets and attitudes and beliefs about what students can do so that everybody is successful.
We got approved to be one of the pilot buildings, so we're able to work with Journey to Inclusion to support our staff. The in-person trainings have just been hands down phenomenal. Some of the best training my teachers will say that they've received.
I told my mom that I'm going to be a teacher, and I'm going to invent the time machine when I'm grown up.
Everyone in the school knows Ruben. He is such an amazing kid. And honestly, to see him grow as a learner and to see that he is doing a lot of our grade level expectations and following those standards has been really amazing.
Ruben has been a phenomenal student to work with. He's opened up his peers' eyes to realize that he can really do everything that they can do. So that awareness is that disability really isn't a disability. He just has to learn different ways to do the same thing that his peers are doing.
Often classroom teachers are saying, you know, I would like a special educator or a reading teacher because they're experts and they can really help this child. And so it's kind of flipping that script to say, yes, and you are the first grade expert, you are the second grade expert. And so as a team is how we make this happen.
This is my 16th year teaching. I've probably grown the most ever as a teacher just this year.
What we're seeing is the more that Ruben is with his peers, the more that those peers take on that role.
Providing inclusive education isn't a new thing. It's not a shiny object you pull off a shelf and you start again. This is truly about aligning the high quality instructional materials that you're using, truly making an approach that will allow every single student the same opportunities.
When I'm preparing a lesson for my entire class, I just have to make sure that I have that done ahead of time so we can get that work to the Braillists at our ESU 3, and then they have it back in time. So it's not harder, it's just different and have to be a little more organized.
When we're thinking about the core, when we're thinking about what we do for all kids, this fits. So instead of making it one more thing, how do we tie this into what we're doing? How do we lead with this? Can we examine some of our current practices and possibly shift those back to basics?
I think Everybody should be paying attention to Nebraska and what is happening here. It is so hard to change an education system, but what's happening in Nebraska is from the highest level at the state education agency all the way down to the classroom. Change is happening. And it's happening because the state agency has recognized that their role is limited, but they have incredible influence on how they can change the lives of students every day in the classroom. They've really taken this concept of inclusive education and brought that into every level of their system.
It makes me feel great that I'm in with my friends. I feel like I belong.
Okay, so this brings us to our first key idea. When inclusive education is present in a school community, the instruction, relationship, and support services are all designed to meet the needs and enhance the strengths of every learner. We know that families play a variety of integral roles in the educational lives of students. You serve as the first teachers of your children, and that doesn't end when your child starts going to school. In this section, we will explore what it means to be an active contributor to inclusive experiences in your child's school, and we'll share some strategies and resources for you to utilize in advocating both for your child and for inclusive education in your school community. As a parent or guardian, you have a deep understanding of your child's physical, social, developmental, and family history. While you may not be an educator yourself, your experiences with your child and in your life are critical to ensuring inclusive education is happening in your school community. You may even feel tension between trusting your child's teachers or school and being concerned that your child may need more support. This feeling is natural, and there are ways to build trust with your child's school while ensuring they are able to provide an experience in which your child will be successful. To give you an idea what this might look like, I want to talk about the Newsom family. Names have been changed to protect the privacy, but the scenario is real. Sierra Newsom is a 4th grader with autism spectrum disorder. She recently started at a new school, and she was experiencing some challenges with transitioning to different activities throughout the school day. Sierra's teacher was calling their cell phones and leaving voicemails most days to share that Sierra was having a hard time regulating her emotions and was crying frequently throughout the day. Mr. and Miss Newsom work outside the home, and while they can answer texts or emails throughout the day, they aren't able to pick up phone calls. They also felt like the amount of calls they were receiving were in excess. Every time they saw a voicemail from the school number, they were nervous it was an emergency, which was not the case. In order to have a working relationship full of collaboration, problem solving, and idea sharing, parents should work toward building a trusting relationship with the school and the staff members within it. You may have found ways to develop these relationships, or you may be finding this element challenging, which is how the Newsom family was feeling. We've developed a guide for families in pursuit of inclusive education with strategies, resources, and tips to support you. Here are 3 strategies for approaching relationship building with your child's teacher and the school community so that you can be an active contributor. The first strategy is communicating openly and often. Find ways to communicate with your child's teacher or school staff that work well for both parties. Ask if they prefer texting, a phone call, or email, and use that format to communicate. Communicating in a way that works for your child's teacher or school staff demonstrates that you care. The second strategy is to offer support and suggestions. Being around kids all day is hard work. When communicating with your child's teacher or other school staff, share what's working at home and with your child and what isn't, and offer ideas of what to try when it's not working at school. Sharing about what you go through and how you have tried to figure it out opens the door for continued conversations and discussions on potential solutions to any challenge. The third strategy is to be receptive to new ideas and approaches. While you have great insight to share, your child's teacher and school staff do too. If they share a new strategy to try at home or offer an idea, be open to it and give it a shot. Relationships are a two-way street. The more you demonstrate you're willing to try out ideas, the more willing a teacher and other school staff will do the same. It's important to note that these strategies are not immediate fixes, and sometimes you'll feel like you need a new strategy more than once or in conjunction with other strategies in order to see some progress. For the Newsome family, it looked like a combination of both. First, they reached out to indicate text or even email might reach them faster. In connecting with Sierra's teacher, they learned that email was her preference too. By communicating this, they were able to better establish a relationship with Sierra's teacher and open lines of communication to better collaborate to support Sierra. Once they established this relationship with Sierra's teacher and moved their communication to email, they shared that each time there was an outreach, they were nervous that it was an emergency. Sierra's teacher acknowledged this and started to lead with, "This is an emergency," or "This is just a check-in." And over time, and with additional feedback from the Newsomes, this also led to consolidated outreach rather than several times per day or week. Once they developed that line of communication that worked for both parties, they were able to share strategies. Mr. and Mrs. Newsome were able to share what was working really well at home, like using a timer to count down to the end of an activity, or before they were getting ready to leave the house, and also learn what was working at school, like using pictures to describe what Sierra's day would look like at the beginning of the day, so she knew what to expect. They were excited to be able to try this strategy that they had never considered at home too. So we have established that inclusive education is impactful and that your perspective is very important in facilitating this in your child's school. For the Newsomes, their path forward to a strong relationship was not a fast one, but they were persistent and tried several strategies in order to ensure Sierra was supported. But what happens when inclusive education isn't happening in a way that works for your child, even once you've developed a deep, trusting relationship with your child's teacher in school? As a parent or guardian, you can advocate for what you believe your child's needs are. This was also the case for the Newsomes. As the year went on, they learned that Sierra was being taken to a separate classroom for several parts of the day and with other students with disabilities. This was concerning to the Newsomes, and they felt empowered to reach out to Sierra's school about this. Just like the Newsomes, you too have the ability to lead this advocacy, and you can work to change what's happening for your child in school. As you do, consider the following tips. Get the facts. Schools are required to prepare and share an annual report card, including information about school and student performance. As you prepare to advocate, find out how your school is performing. Prepare for the conversation. Asking for something different than what is being provided might feel difficult. To ease this feeling, plan out what you want to say and how you want to say it. Consider writing down talking points or pre-planning questions in advance of a meeting to set yourself up for a successful conversation. Be thoughtfully persistent. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it's not easy. As you ask for changes to your child's experiences in school, plan to continue to follow up with the teacher or school staff member you're working with. Ask them when you should expect to hear an update and how the update will be communicated, and then make a point to check in on how it's going. Work with your school to determine if it's helpful to set up a follow-up meeting. And finally, ask questions. There are a lot of education terms and policies or structures that may be used in meetings and conversation. Asking questions helps to ensure what is being discussed is clear and that you have all the information you need. In this case, the Newsomes again decided to use a variety of advocacy strategies when approaching Sierra's school. They used their open line of communication with Sierra's teacher to set up a meeting with the teacher and special educated coordinator. They prepared for the meeting by writing down their concerns and questions that were on their mind. At the meeting, they advocated for more time for Sierra to be in a classroom with her non-disabled peers, as was indicated on her IEP. They discussed strategies to help her be successful in the general education classroom and asked for a weekly report of how things were going. On the first Friday after the meeting, they got an email update, but by the second Friday, they didn't hear from Sierra's teacher. They promptly emailed her about it and heard back pretty quickly. By January, Sierra's teacher was regularly sending a weekly wrap-up around Sierra's academic progress, participation in the classroom, transitions, and more. If she ever forgot, the Newsomes followed up, but as time went on, it became a regular communication they could expect. So this leads to our second key idea, which is that skillful relationship building and advocacy skills allow families to actively foster inclusive education in their school communities. We hope today inspired you with ways to participate and advocate for inclusive education in your school community. The strategies and resources we discussed today can be located in a new guide for families called Inclusive Education Illuminated, which will be available soon on our website from PTI's website. But in the meantime, you could email info@pti-nebraska.org and we would be happy to send you a copy. Thank you for taking the time with us today. And we hope that this information was valuable and useful for you.